A very warm welcome to you wherever you are. We're in Wuhan in China, in the province of Hubei. This is the central city in central China, and we're looking forward to day 3 here of the 2012 Dongfeng Citroën BWF Thomas Cup clash between Denmark and Malaysia. This is the Group C table-topping decider. This is some of the hardest smashes we've seen so far this week. Fu Haifeng, part of the men's doubles world ranked #1 team, with one close to 280 kilometers per hour this week. Let's see if that could be topped as the week progresses. In the women, well, it's Denmark's Camilla Rytterhjul, of a smash of just over 230 kilometers per hour, who is leading the way. A couple of Americans there in the top 5, couple of Japanese players too, in Takahashi and Kakiwa. Well, that's the power. Who's got the power to avoid meeting some of the big guns in the quarterfinals? The crowd getting ready to welcome the players of Denmark and Malaysia here in the Wuhan Sports Center. Thomas Cup, of course, the world's biggest, most prestigious team event in badminton. The idea of Englishman Sir George Allen Thomas. Played every 2 years, this the 27th edition, and as I say, this is Group C, Denmark against Malaysia. Both countries comfortably through to the quarterfinals with 5-0 wins over South Africa, but who will win the group and avoid playing the host, the defending champions, and the favourites here, China, in the last 8? That's how the table stands right now. 15th meeting between them in Thomas Cup history, and this is how they line up, with P.Gade up against the world #1 Lee Chong-wei, and Morgensen and Bo against well, maybe a surprise men's doubles lineup of Tan and Hun. They split Tan and Koo. As you can see, Koo, who's playing with Go later on against Rasmussen and Fischer-Nielsen. Jan Jorgensen up against Darren Liu, and then the final match, 2 of the kind of walking wounded in Hans Christian Vittinghus against Mohamed Hafiz Hashim. Mohamed Hafiz Hashim with a fever. Vittinghus came into this week with a bit of an injury. I wonder if it'll come down to that final match. We shall see. First match is the men's singles, then P.Gade against Lee Chong-wei. Denmark maybe looking for a bit of revenge after the last time they met in the semi-finals in Kuala Lumpur 2 years ago, when Malaysia won 3-2. I'm Richard Kaufman. I'm sure we're going to have an afternoon here to really look forward to. Alongside me is England's most capped player of all time, Jill Clark, a silver medal winner in the Uber Cup. Really is an interesting matchup, this, and there is a lot for both of these countries to play for.
Absolutely, because every team will want to try and avoid the defending champions, and of course hosts China. They really have such a strong team in depth. So, you know, of course China are the favourites for the overall title, but, you know, Malaysia and Denmark have a strong tradition in this event. Malaysia, of course, one of only 3 nations ever to have won the Thomas Cup, and Denmark themselves have been in the final on 8 occasions, but they've never actually won the Thomas Cup. And for P.Gade and Lee Chong-wei, well, that's a demonstration of the fact that off court they are great friends and great respect for each other. But it is rather ominous, this opening match. This is the 18th meeting between these 2 men, and P.Gade has only won on 1 occasion.
Yeah, it's interesting actually hearing his comments this week up against Lee Chong-wei. Even he says, you know, Lee Chong-wei's too strong for me. He doesn't feel he's going to be able to win this, but he thinks actually overall though that Denmark have a better chance of beating Malaysia in a neutral venue than obviously a couple of years ago I mentioned the defeat in Kuala Lumpur.
Yes, I think I'd agree with that. I mean, you've already touched on the fact that a huge surprise in the men's doubles, as we look at P.Gade's statistics there, and I just want to draw attention to his win-loss record for the year. As far as P.Gade is concerned, a world ranking of 5, he's just dropped down in the last few weeks from #4 in the world. You know, not to get past a quarter-final so far this year by his own very, very high standards. That really is a poor performance. You think a couple of years ago, you know, the whole of 2010, all the tournaments he played, he reached at least the semi-final in all of them, and that includes World Championships and All England. You compare that statistic to 26-2 win-loss record for the year for Lee Chong-wei. I mean, it really is, well, there's the confirmation of the fact that this is the 18th meeting between the two of them. You know, and it was sung considerable time ago that P.Gade did have that one and only victory. It was in the final of the Korean Open, and he won in 3 very, very tough games. But, you know, going back to the doubles, I really am very, very surprised about Malaysia splitting their top 2 pairs.
Well, the thinking is this, the doubles coach is Tan Kim Hare, and he was talking about this, and he reckons the Danish pairs are ranked higher than the Malaysians. He says if we go for strength, it's a risk we could lose both of them. So what they're trying to do is trying to put together a pairing that beat a top Korean pairing in the Sudamin Cup last year, in former world junior champions in Tan Bun Hung and Hun Tien Hao, and maybe feeling that they have a better chance against Boa Mogensen given the recent matches up with Kuantan.
Yes,
you can look at it from both angles.
I can understand the logic, most definitely on that. But to me, Hun Tien Hao doesn't look in the best physical condition. Yeah, you're right. He won the World Junior Championship with Tan Bun Hyung. So putting them together, they know each other's style of play, obviously. But, you know, I think that's a huge risk.
And the other pairing is a scratch pairing. They've never played together.
Yep.
It is a very interesting situation.
Denmark, represented by P.Gade. On my left, Malaysia, represented by Lee Chong-wei. Malaysia to serve. Love all. Play.
Ian Spear is our umpire, so the final match in Group C gets underway. P.Gade, the world number 5, up against the number 1 in the world, Lee Chong-wei. And as we've been mentioning, P.Gade, even he saying he doesn't think this can be his afternoon. 1 win in 17 encounters with the Malaysian Datuk. Although Lee Chong-wei's had his struggles recently. He arrived this week in Wuhan having had flu. He's had a shoulder injury that of course forced him to put out midway through that All England final with Lin Dan.
Yes, and his first tournament back after that shoulder injury, the India Super Series event, a surprise loss to Sun Wan Ho of Korea. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness.
He's just hurt his ankle.
Oh, I didn't like the look of that.
We're just talking about his problems, and there could be another one here for Lee Chong-wei. Oh dear, dear, dear. Well, you just can't help but think this is Olympic year, and every injury, whether it's severe or not, you just wonder what's going through the mind of Lee Chong-wei.
Well,
I don't know how bad.
Tournament doctor is already being called on. Just his reaction to that, Richard, I really didn't like it at all.
Well,
this would be absolutely tragic for the world number 1.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've still got a couple of months to the Olympics, but in terms of preparation, in terms of, you know, just this match alone as well, we're going to have another look at it here. Ooh. Yeah. Just gave underway underneath him. Look, just there. That is horrific.
Yeah. I mean, he really would be unwise to carry on. That looks like a serious injury for a start.
Yeah, it could be ligament damage, that kind of twist. Certainly, let's hope it's nothing significant, but as you say, it would be very unwise, given the circumstances we're talking about, to try and push it even further.
Yeah, I really, really feel for him and all Malaysian fans. He's very, you can see it's very, very swollen already.
Oh my goodness, it is, yeah. Well, P.Gade, I'm sure he'll be wishing Lee Chong-wei the best as well. This is not what he or anybody would want.
No. Well, there's Coach Tae Soo Bok, and I'm sure whilst he's not allowed to actually go onto the court and get involved in this, I'm sure his sentiments would be, you've got to come off. You can't play through that. It's, you know, and even the Danish coach is looking concerned.
I'm afraid this is the headline on day 3 of the BWF Thomas Cup. The world #1 left on the ground, injured in Olympic year.
Yeah. Well, I saw him in the gym this morning at the tournament hotel. He was doing all the right things. He was doing his stretching. He was preparing for his match mentally. He was looking very happy, very relaxed.
I think it was just one of those things, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he was just going back as he would do a million other times, and just the foot just gave way suddenly.
Yes, and given the fact that he has had flu, he couldn't join his teammates initially. Well, that's huge swelling on that.
So what I mean, how long do we get here? Is there any stipulation how much time you're allowed?
In badminton, the tournament doctor is allowed to come onto court and they can assess the injury and they can advise. They're officially not allowed to treat. So officially he's not allowed to have strapping put on that ankle. So in my opinion, and I have no medical expertise whatsoever, this is a complete no-brainer as far as Lee Chong-wei is concerned. He should not be even contemplating.
But he's doing his shoe back up here,
well,
which suggests
there's some theories that actually you should try and compress the swelling by keeping shoes on.
he looks doing it very gingerly, isn't he?
Yeah, and Coach Tae-Soo Bok here, from his gestures, he's saying, you know, enough. Don't try and play on.
That's it.
Oh, never.
What's Ian Spear there saying to P.Gade that
Lee Chong-wei is going to try and play on. You cannot be serious. No.
Well,
I know this is Thomas Cup, but in the big picture for Lee Chong-wei personally himself, there's a bigger thing to think about, and that's the Olympics.
well, he's only just come back from this shoulder injury, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's going to call it a day. That's all right. He turned to his coach and said, shook his head. Oh, isn't that lovely to see?
Well, great sportsmanship from P.Gade. Sad news then from the Wuhan Sports Centre. Lee Chong-wei, after just 3 points, has to withdraw from the Thomas Cup.
Won by Denmark, 1-2.
And by the looks of things, I don't think we're going to see Lee Chong-wei here again this week.
Definitely
and he
not.
looks devastated.
Oh, my heart bleeds for him, it really does, because, you know, having come back from the shoulder injury, you know, then gets flu. Talking to him earlier this week, I was asking him how he was, and he said, no, Jill, don't worry, I'm fine, I'm coming back. I mean, I have the courage to go for it and unleash the big smashes now. And then he picks up another injury.
Well, sad news. I mean, he was only going to play one other event before the Olympics. That was the one in Indonesia. And it's just a matter of time for Lee Chong-wei. How serious the injury is, of course, he doesn't know that yet, and quite naturally we don't know yet. But he has until the end of July to get everything right as far as his Olympic hopes are concerned. Of course, he was absolutely devastated with the way things went in Beijing in 2008. He picked himself up and he shown what a great champion he is with the number of tournaments he's won since then, and of course that tremendous World Championship final where he felt he could hold his head high, where he just failed in his bid to win a world title for Malaysia, losing to Lin Dan after having 3 match points. But, well, I'm sure everyone watching in Malaysia has had their heart in their mouths watching that. Hero back home is left forlorn on the ground, and right now you can't see it, but it's being surrounded by the photographers and the cameraman here. Now we're getting a good look at the ankle and the swelling. That's pretty evident, and the devastation as well on the face of the world #1. tears of pain and tears of what might be as well. He's getting the correct and proper attention required. It'll be at least a day, I would say, until we know exactly the extent of this injury.
Well, as he gets treatment at the side, of course, the men's doubles players probably won't have warmed up properly yet. They would still be in there stretching and
this is
warming up stage.
This is going to affect the Malaysian team as a whole, isn't it? Because he, you know, obviously, as world #1, he is at the forefront of Malaysian badminton, and of course a hero back home. And seeing him in tears like this, it's going to have a knock-on effect for everyone else in the team.
Without any shadow of a doubt. I mean, it was their banker. You know, Lee Chong-wei, 16 victories to 1 against P.Gade. Everybody obviously believed that he was going to get Malaysia off to a winning start, and now it's put a totally different complexion on the whole prospect of this tie.
And it's what you call a hollow victory for P.Gade, not what he would want, and certainly not what anyone here in Wuhan would have wanted. But most of all thoughts with Lee Chong-wei in what is such a big year for him.